All right. Give everybody a minute or two to kind of log in here.
I think you are presenting in the wrong screen.
Okay, give me a second. How's that look, Carlos?
All right, better.
Good. All right. So, welcome everybody. We'll go ahead and we'll get started here. So my name is Jack Harrison. I am one of the uh, engineers on the Maximo NAS Maximo team. Today we're going to be talking about the Maximo Scheduler application, but I wanted to introduce myself a little bit first. I've been working on Maximo for a little over 10 years now, about a little over 5 years with the NAS team. During that time, I've worked on everything from front end to back end. So I kind of have a little bit of a wide breadth of experience doing a little bit of everything. I know many of the people on this call. I've worked with many of you, so hopefully this will be helpful for you guys. Today we're going to be talking about the Maximo Scheduler application, specifically the one that's used within the Maximo Application Suite environment. Um, it is actually slightly different than the ones that are used in previous versions in 7.6. I'll explain those differences kind of as we go throughout this. But it's important to know at the start that what I'm presenting on is mainly those that are used within the MAS 9 environment. Um, so with that, we'll go ahead and we'll just kind of hop in and get started. So the first thing that I want to go over is what is Maximo Scheduler. Maximo Scheduler is kind of this conglomeration of different applications that can be used to basically do what it sounds like, which is scheduling your work and kind of planning out your resources for that work. The Maximo Scheduler tool is used to look at your tasks and assignments and assign them to different resources and using kind of a graphical view to bring all of that together. So you can see at one glance, how overloaded your resources are or underloaded your resources are, and assign the work within your teams kind of dynamically in one stop shop of an application. So that's kind of what Maximo's scheduler is designed to do. Now, this tool originally did cost money at the 7.6 level. It was an addition that would you had to pay for. When we came over into the MAS 9 environment, it is now something that is included as part of the base cost of Maximo. You don't have to pay any extra for this tool. It is there. It is waiting for you to kind of facilitate and use this particular tool. So we'll go over the specifics of what this tool can do a little bit later. One thing we're not going to go over today is I'm not going to show you how to set up a schedule in every single intimate detail, meaning I'm not going to go step by step through how to set one of these up. There are a lot of steps to setting up a Maximo scheduler to use the tool, and we'll go over that in a second. But I'm not going to go step by step just because there's too many steps for me to do within kind of this hour-long presentation. So with that, we'll go on to the next slide. So who is Maximo Scheduler good for? Maximo Scheduler is not good for everybody, especially within the power departments that we have that we service. Maximo Scheduler isn't built to be a one-size-fit-all for all the teams. Scheduler is kind of this. It is a very expansive tool. It is a very powerful tool, but it requires a lot of configuration and a lot of upkeep to keep it running the way that you probably want to use it. For that reason, Maximo Scheduler is really good for those who want to see the intricacies of their work, who want to see the intricacies of each one of their resources and what they're working on. But it is not built for smaller plants who don't have somebody who can sit down and plan every single schedule within this. And that's really important to point out at the start, because if you don't have those resources, it's going to be very difficult to use this tool to its fullest extent and to gain the benefits of it. That doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of benefit to this tool. You can use this tool for both daily work for the larger plants, as well as you can use it for just kind of an outage and plan out your outage to the minute and to the hour that your guys are working. So each hour is accounted for, and you know where every guy is at as they're going throughout this process. For that reason, I suggest this more for outage type work for what we do. But for some of the larger plants, this is going to make a lot of sense in keeping track of all the resources and making sure that we're hitting all the time goals that we're trying to commit to in terms of our workload, our PMs, and those types of work. So what is needed to set up Scheduler? So I talked a little bit about Scheduler being a tool that can be used throughout Maximo, but that there's a lot of lead up to it. There is a good amount of data that needs to be set up in order for you to start using Scheduler, and there's a good amount of best practices that you have to now adopt if you're going to start using Scheduler for everyday work. The first of which is we kind of need to go through and make sure that all of our crafts are assigned appropriately to the labor profiles. And within that, we also need to make sure that those crafts all have a calendar and schedule associated with them and shifts associated with them. So what that looks like, I'll show a little bit when we start going through the demo. But suffice to say, this is something that the first part of this, the crafts piece, this is something you'll probably set up once when an employee kind of comes on board. And really, for most of the time, it's an initial setup for getting that part of it running. The more important kind of thought process change you have to make when it comes to Scheduler is that all work orders need to start using the scheduled start and scheduled finish dates. Now, historically, within Maximo, we usually push people to use the target start, target finish. Those are the ones that we've kind of pushed people towards. It's the one that the PMs initially fill out by default. Those have kind of been the bread and butter of Maximo for a long time. Scheduled start and scheduled finish are something that you'll have to kind of use in conjunction with the target start and target finish. Target start and target finish are going to still be there. They're still going to be, this is what we intend to do. The schedule start and schedule finish is going to be more along the lines of, hey, this is when we expect to do this work within that original timeline. So the schedule start, schedule finish have to be filled out in order for that work order to kind of show up appropriately within the tool. And I'll show you kind of what that looks like when we get to the demo of, hey, this is what a work order looks like when it is appropriately scheduled within there. Versus, when it's not appropriately scheduled within there, and kind of what that process looks like. So there are multiple applications that come as a part of the scheduler applications. There's going to be three main ones I'm going to go over, plus some of the dashboards. The dashboards give additional views, and we'll go over those in just a second. The main one that we're going to be using is graphical assignment. Now, in the previous versions of Maximo, there was the graphical scheduler, and then there was the actual graphical assignment. When it moved over into Mass 9, IBM took it and put the two applications together to kind of make a one-stop shop type application for everything that you're trying to use scheduler for kind of inherently. So this is going to be the one that you're going to see most often, and this is going to be kind of, when you think of scheduler, this is going to be probably the one that pops to your head more than likely. Graphical assignment is not just assigning work out to everybody, but it also can be used for just scheduling the work in a general sense. And we'll kind of show there's two different tabs within graphical assignment that you're going to use. One is for kind of your work order management and kind of planning out your work orders in terms of timing. The other part of it is going to be obviously using your resources in order to kind of facilitate those timings. And obviously the two may flow between themselves depending on your resources load, right? So you may have to move somebody up in the process to make their schedule work for them. And I'll kind of show that process as we go through the demo. The second application we'll take a look at as a part of today is the graphical work week. Now the graphical work week is kind of a offshoot of the graphical assignment tool. What the graphical work week will show you is it'll show you kind of a level loading of your resources and get an idea of seeing, you know, when we're looking at our electricians, when we're looking at our operators, what do they have in terms of load for each one of them? Because you might have a guy who's working 4 different crafts within your tool, and you might only be looking at part of their workload. Where this will give you an option to kind of see everybody and their resources all at once and see what their week looks like. Where, you know, they might have 12 hours on Monday, but only 4 hours on Thursday, and we can kind of begin to level load the work that they have. So the graphical work week, the way that it differs from the assignment is really largely just a week-long look at, hey, here's the hours that this resource is assigned, versus looking more so on the work order aspect of actually assigning the work. So it's more resource driven. And the last application we'll take a look at today will be the graphical resource view. Now the graphical resource view, what this is kind of largely built for is something very similar to what I just described. The difference is that the work view is largely based upon a week-to-week basis. The resource view is really just over a long period of time. So, you know, we can look weeks or months ahead and kind of see, you know, what our guys have going for them in terms of work and whether they are available or not available at certain points in time in terms of workload. It also allows us to, you know, put in different breaks for certain people. If we know certain members of our team are going to be out, we can schedule that within the graphical resource view, and then those will be reflected as part of their schedule in the graphical assignment tool. So the resource view is more of like a resource management tool, where the work view is kind of your overall look at how things kind of ended up. And then your graphical assignment tool is really specifically doing the work of assigning everything out. Okay, with all of that, there is also dashboards. Now your dashboards are going to be, there's 3 separate dashboards that come inherently. They're going to be your scheduling, your planning, and your dispatching dashboards. Now, dispatching is going to be a little bit different. We probably won't use dispatching a whole ton within the tools, just because dispatching kind of refers to running our resources out to certain different areas. Whereas most of us are at a power plant, it's very stagnant. We're in one building, 1 or 2 buildings. We're not really dispatching anybody out to certain places. And so for that reason, the dispatching view may not be something that we use consistently, but there is ways to kind of leverage it as we go. Now, I'm not going to do a full-blown demo on these dashboards, just because for a number of reasons, one of which is these dashboards begin to fill out better the more information you have, and I just don't have enough demo data in order to kind of get them to kick over in the way that we would like. But suffice to say, going over the three dashboards, the scheduling dashboard, it really gives you an ability to kind of see what we have going at any one point in time and who it's assigned to, and give you a better look that isn't driven by that initial Gantt chart view and that initial build that we use the actual application for. What it allows you to do is kind of see a more report style view. So if I kind of show you a little bit here, the one on the left here is going to be your scheduling dashboard. This one is going to be able to show you, day by day what our resource leveling looks like, and kind of who it's assigned to, and give you the high level notes of each day and kind of what we're looking at. Over on the right here is your more planning piece of it. This gives you kind of an hour by hour look at any single day. You can see, how much our utilization rates are at, what our shifts look like, and if any one of our shifts is a little overloaded with the work that they have going on. You can break this down into many different pieces from this, and there's a lot of different ways to kind of control the data to make sure that we're getting the data that we want in the environment that we want. But long story short, with these dashboards, is they just give you a different way to kind of visualize what we put into the original three tools. Okay, so at this time, I'll kind of hop in and we'll begin showing you a little bit within Maximo the actual demo itself. So give me just a second here as I get that set up. All righty. Can everybody see my screen? Carlos, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes.
All right, cool. All right, so I'm using just one of our environments as kind of a test bed environment. So we'll get kind of logged in here. So most of your scheduling type tools are going to be within this planning scheduling button right here, this particular module. All of the things that I just talked about, the graphical work week, the graphical assignment, the resource view, the scheduling dashboard, planning dashboard, and dispatching dashboard, all those exist within this module itself. Now, like I said previously, there's a lot that we have to do kind of going into these particular environments. So the first thing that you want to obviously keep track of is within our resources, and it's really looking at the labor, the crafts, and the calendars. This is where the calendars is going to be where we set up an initial calendar. Usually we'll make them, the calendars aren't hugely important in terms of year to year. Normally when I make calendars, I'll make them for an entire year. Within this, we can filter this down when we get into the scheduler application. So it's really part of it isn't as important. This is also where you would define shifts, and you would say, hey, we have a shift, a 9 to 5 schedule. You could put a day shift, a night shift, all that kind of stuff. Once you get the calendar and the shifts put together, then you would come in here and you would go to your labor profiles. Your labor profiles are going to be basically all the employees that you have at a particular location, and then it's going to be the crafts that we associate with any one of those employees. Then on top of that, down here, the most important piece is you need to assign them a calendar and a shift. So make sure that that's put in there as well. Once the calendar and shift is in, and we have the crafts associated with this particular employee, and all that's done, you can then go into your graphical assignment and begin to build out your actual your first schedule. Now, I've built a schedule here. We're going to go through this page a little bit in detail so I can explain some of the features that exist within this tool. But suffice to say, at this point, if you have those calendars, those shifts, and those employees, you can begin to start using this tool. setting up the graphical assignment piece is the next step. And really, you'll start off by just adding a schedule and then a calendar and a shift. You'll put a start date, end date. For this, the purposes of this, I just put, the month of October. That's kind of all we're worried about in terms of what we're looking at here. We can choose to restrict the work so that it actually only fits into that time frame. This is why I said previously that the calendar can be something that's, the entire year, but we can restrict the dates so that the work dates are only within this particular time frame. The way that we do that is again by those scheduled start and scheduled finish dates. So if there isn't a scheduled start and scheduled finish, that's one of the options that are within here. They'll show up in this tool, but so you need to make sure that there either is a scheduled start and scheduled finish, or there isn't one, because you'll have to be very particular on how you do that, because that's how we're going to filter into this particular tool. Now, down below here, you'll have work queries and resource availability. For the purposes of this exercise, I have done all open work orders. I do not suggest that for when you're using this tool. The work queries is going to be more specific to, I would suggest filtering it to either a group, or if you don't want to do a group, just do a time period, or just hey, here's all the approved work orders, the ones that are ready for work at this exact moment. Filtering this down a little bit. If you do it over all of your existing open work orders, it can be a little bit overbearing, and you'll see that a little bit as we kind of go throughout this. With this amount of work orders, it can be a little daunting to try to piece this together. And then down below here, you can restrict resource availability. This basically allows us to say, hey, we only want to see operator schedules, or hey, we just want to see what the electricians have going on, or any combination of those two. Now, the way that we specify the work queries and the resource availability here, and we restrict those down, is going to be based upon your queries that you've saved on the original pages. Now, for those that don't know, you can save queries on any application. In this case, the work order or the quick reporting or the SR application can all be used for this particular work queries piece. The restrict resource availability, that's going to be largely your labor look. So you would create queries for both of those, and you can filter them as necessary, and then you can place those filters based on that into this tool, so we only see the work that we're trying to view. The last thing I want to point out on this particular page is the rolling schedule. Now, the rolling schedule piece, this is going to, I'm not going to go into this in great detail here. This will be kind of more of a follow-up thing if you guys choose to use this tool. But long story short, the way the rolling schedule works is basically you can assign a piece of work for, let's say, for this week. And we restrict the dates to being this week now, or in this case, we did this month. Rolling schedule means that, in a month, we're going to have the next one kind of roll out. And that's how rolling schedule works. Is basically we're going to update this particular schedule on a basis so that we have the next month and the next month, so we don't have to continually refresh this schedule over and over and over again. We just know that this is going to update as we go. So we're always looking, a month ahead or a week ahead for what we need. You also have more information over here on the right. You can put in additional resources if you would like. Start and end locations. There's a lot of different options within here. One of the biggest pieces that is on this particular page, is I would largely say, is this public button. You can make private schedules for you, just you if you would like. So if you're somebody who kind of likes to work in the background and not freak everybody else out with what you have going on, you can choose to not make this particular schedule public. Or if you're working on a team and you want everybody to be able to work on this, check the box, make it public, and everybody can come in and see what schedules you have going. Okay. Without further ado, the actual part that most people are probably going to be interested in is this work view. So the work view is kind of split up into two separate pieces. There's the work view over here on the left. I like to minimize this menu over here. It gives you a little bit more room with what's on the screen here. So there's two pieces to this. You've got this work view here, which will show you all the work orders that we have within that time frame that we kind of put in. Now, again, in my case, we did all open work orders. That's why you're seeing so many work orders here. In most cases, we're going to filter this down to being a little bit more restrictive. And that's where that's going to become important, is because you'll see as we move this across, it moves very quickly because we have such a wide range within this, where we have, we're doing a full month, and that things might range within that. You'll also notice that we have a start and end dates that go across this. One of the reasons for that is that we have in here, we have ones that are going, from January 1st to December 31st. Because these are ones that are wide ranging and they go within the month that we have time scheduled. We also have to keep track of them, and that's why they're all here and they all have full bars here. Now, if you put a duration on this and you say like 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever it may be, it'll shorten this down to being 3 hours from this 5:30 a.m. on January 1st. But in this particular case, we didn't do that, and it's just so that we can keep track of these kind of admin work orders. Now, this tool is extremely configurable. We can, when you're within here, you can choose, see here, you can filter any one of these particular, or filter, sort, any one of these groupings. So if we say, hey, I just want to see a particular work order, you can turn on the filter and filter to a particular work order. You can filter to 3 or 4 if you would like. If you want to do tasks, start date, so on, you have filters for that. You can also choose to, if you don't want the filter, you can also choose to edit this particular bar and only show the data that you want to see. You can do this either by actually editing the bar and only showing that data, or B, when we go to print it off, we can choose which pieces of information are only important for those that we're printing it off for. And that's kind of how this process works for that. Now, in terms of actually getting down into this and scheduling particular work, let me see if we can find, let's zoom into our work. So this is a good opportunity to kind of see where our work is. So if we go here, we can kind of see the work that we have. So just to explain what I just did, we had the zoom to work. Now, if you zoom to work, it's going to show you all the work that is within a particular schedule. Now, again, because we have those January 1st to 12/31, it's going to show me the whole year of 2025. Now, within that, we can kind of see that there's a lot of work within the time frame that we're talking about, and that we care about, which is October. So I can click on October, and it'll show me, specifically, for October, here's kind of the big ones that we see. And then within that, we can say, okay, I just want to see week 42. It'll show me just the week 42, and we can kind of see what's got going in week 42. So that's a good way to kind of see what everything we have that's going. You can also just drag and drop these. They're hours based. So you'd move this over. You'd say, hey, instead of this starting this particular day, I need it to start on Monday. We're going to have it start at, say, maybe not 1 a.m., but we'll say, 7 a.m. on Monday. And you'll notice that not only did it move this particular piece, but this piece was a part of some of these other work orders. So it moved everything else with it, so that they all kind of fit together into what we needed. And you can see that a little better if I move this over. You can see, they're all part of the same work order. They're just tasks underneath that work order. So it moved everything over. So this is the work, kind of the work piece of it. There's a lot of different pieces that we can do in here. There's, you can check the available labor. You can schedule lock stuff. You can filter. There's a lot of different things that we can do within this particular screen that we're looking at here. The next piece of this is going to be the assignment view. Yeah, go ahead. Save the changes that I made. Well, I didn't think it was going to take that long, but there we go. Okay, so now we have the assignment view. Now the assignment view that we're looking at here, this is kind of the same thing that we were just talking about. We have your schedule here. You've got your work orders and tasks over here on the right in this view and this screen. And then on the left, you'll see all the different people that we have and what particular craft they're underneath. So for operators, we have a lot of operators, obviously. We only have, 2 millwrights, 2 instrument techs, and 1 electrician. So it's very important that we obviously keep their workloads as light as we can. But the way that you would schedule these out to people is pretty simple. So we can see that we have a lot of operators here, and we have some work for the operators right here. Just performing a monthly inspection. So if we wanted to assign this particular work to, say, Phil down here, all you have to do is just drag and drop this down into Phil. And you can put it into Phil's schedule wherever it makes sense. There's another pipe monthly inspection here. We're just going to drop that so that it drops, right in between for Phil's time frame. Now it'll go yellow here if we have an overlap in timing. And it'll let you know, hey, Phil's a little overloaded at this particular time. We expect this to be, overran. You can just move this over to the left a little bit and say, hey, we just need Phil to start on this project a little bit earlier. And bada bing, bada boom, Phil goes back to being green. He's happy. Happy-ish, you just assigned him work, but he's happy with the amount of work that he has, and we can kind of keep him rolling. So obviously we can keep this process going throughout the week for all the different work types and all the different crafts that we have. I'm not going to go through that in any more detail. There's a lot of different ways that we can also check within this, but for the purposes of what we're looking at, we just assigned Phil this work. So now we can see, on the 11th, Phil's got, some work here for these pipe inspections. Now, we'll hit save. We'll let it save for a second. And while it's saving, we assign this work over to Phil. It may be difficult for us to see exactly what Phil has on his plate for this particular day because of we may have in this case, we have all the open work orders, right? But as I previously mentioned, we may have this filtered down to being a plant operator view. We may have this, filtered down to being, very particular filters on this particular schedule. And like I suggested, that's probably the right way to do this, is not to take a huge overmarking look at your open work orders and trying to filter in between this work view and all the work orders that you have for the month. That's probably going to be a little overbearing. What is probably a better approach is to kind of filter to these plant operators, to filter to, your millwrights, and build their schedules out appropriately within that. But because we might filter down to them, you might notice that some of the names that are up here in the operators, some of the names that are up here in the millwrights, and some of the names that are in some of these other sections, they might duplicate because a person works multiple different crafts. And we might have them in multiple different areas. So as a result of that, if this is filtered, we wouldn't see that in this particular view. So what ends up happening is that's where some of these other tools that we have come into play, like the graphical work week and the graphical resource view. So the graphical work week is going to show us kind of an idea of what does our work look like for this coming week. If we were to just kind of plan out this week. we can kind of see, you know, what we have on deck, and plan stuff out accordingly. Now, this is going to be a very similar view to the graphical assignment view. But again, this is going to be largely focused to being just this particular week. And it's going to load some additional data down here if it gets to it. That's going to be a little bit more helpful in terms of planning out a person's week. So we can kind of see here when we look at someone like Helen Roy, or we look at some of the other members here, you know, how much work we have is in red. We have unassigned work of about 32 hours to the HV electrical techs. You know, we need to assign that out to different people. And you may have to get that filtered down into these employees appropriately. So for example, we have 63 hours of work on Wednesday. We need to filter that out so that, you know, Chris doesn't get overloaded on Wednesday. We need to filter that to Tuesday, Monday, Thursday, Friday, so that that process works efficiently. Okay. So this is the graphical work week, and kind of what it's used for is it gives you this view right here. And then within that, you also have your graphical resource view. Your graphical resource view is going to largely be the view of all of your employees. Now you can again filter this to being different teams. I largely suggest it because otherwise you might get a little bit overburdened again. But you can kind of see as we look throughout this team, you know, who's got work, what they've got going on. Now, in this particular case, we don't have a lot of work going across. So you kind of have to just visualize with me. But for the most part, what you need to know is that this gives us an ability to see, you know, at a month's glance, who's available, what days, and how many hours they have on their plate for those days. So that's really going to be what this particular graphical resource view is used for. Then the last, once you get done with both of those pieces, the graphical assignment, the graphical work week, and the graphical resource view, you'll get down into the dashboards, which are the scheduling dashboard, the planning dashboard, and the dispatching dashboard. I'm not going to go into those because they actually launch separate of this particular view. But just know they'll that they go along with these processes, and kind of what we've talked about previously with the on the PowerPoint, what they're used for. That's those pieces. Okay. So last thing I want to go over is the graphical assignment. Within the graphical assignment tool, within the work view, one of the nice tools of this that most people have talked about is there's also the ability to print this particular schedule. So if you have ever wanted a Gantt chart view of your guys' work, this is a good way to kind of do that Gantt chart print view within your work. You can come in here, you can choose what fields we're going to include, what fields we're not going to include. This won't remove them from the screen. So if you're working with certain pieces of information, but you know your schedulers don't need, or your operators don't need that particular information, you know, you can filter this down into the stuff that's important to them. So these kind of, you know, these more these tools here that are not important to them, you can just remove all of those so that it kind of makes the report a little bit better. Now, when you go to print this particular report out, one thing to know about printing this report out is that it's going to try to print it on a 8.5 by 11. Most of these reports are not going to work on an 8.5 by 11 unless it's a very small schedule, just a daily type schedule. And the reason for that is just because it can't, you know, fathom it into that type of time frame. So what I would suggest is either don't put it into an 8.5 by 11. Choose one of these larger views if you have the opportunity. Alternatively, there's also the XLS option for export. So you can actually take this entire grid that we have here and pump it out into an Excel document and mess with it on Excel. Now, obviously, the drag and drop features and stuff like that isn't gonna translate over into Maximo, but it does give you an opportunity to have maybe something you're more comfortable with to kind of view and see, you know, what did I actually accomplish as part of doing all this, these numbers will update, the dates will update, and you can kind of use Excel to format it into a way that makes sense for somebody else. So, okay. For large and intensive purposes, and because I want to leave some time for kind of questions in here, because I think that I'd like that to kind of drive what we talk about for the remainder. I'm going to kind of begin to open this up to questions. So I will take us back to hopefully do like this, 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 and go like this. All right, oh, great. All right. Provided I can get this figured out. Are there any questions?
Hey, Jack, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, this is Sean Malloy, and I appreciate this little class, or the help that you gave me. I'm not actually too familiar with the Maximo application and how it works, but when we define PM tasks, so let's say it's a quarterly, it comes out every 3 months. Will it just populate to the work order database, or do you actually have to run the scheduler manually to generate those work orders?
So the PMs run a little bit differently. So the PMs will actually generate to it'll generate a work order side of it. So the PM generation piece will run and create the work orders like they normally do. You can to that point, that however, though, you can put in schedule start and schedule finish offsets into your PMs, and kind of use that to set automatically your schedule start and schedule finish dates. So that will help with kind of, so you don't have to put in all these dates. But yeah, it won't generate the work orders for your PMs specifically. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so like for instance, when I go into Maximo, I go into the work order module, and I want to see the most recent open work orders. And if I do that every Monday, will the PMs associated generate and populate on that screen automatically, or no?
If they're scheduled to do so, yes.
Oh,
If the PMs are scheduled to launch at that point in time, yeah, they'll generate and they'll be there waiting for you on Monday morning.
yeah, that's great. So we don't, like some of the systems we had to actually run. We had to run a report to generate to tell the PM to actually come out every week.
Yeah, so you can in Maximo you can set that automatically, so that it just generates. You can either do it manually and say some people like the manual option. There are groups that like to kind of plan out their PMs every month and then they press the button to generate it. Then there are other groups that they just like it to be on a cycle. And you can have Maximo just say, hey, every month or so, every 3 months or so, launch out this PM. Regardless of if one is completed or not, or you can, put different criteria in there. And it'll launch out the PMs as necessary.
Okay, very good. Hey, how do you tell the PM that you want it to automatic generate? Like what field has to be populated?
That'll be on the to have it automatically populated, you're gonna have to probably talk to one of our team members. And turn on the cron task for that. There's a PM Mogen cron task that has to be turned on in order to have that automatic generation. There's also a place in the organizations where you have to have that generated.
Okay. All right. Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other questions? Well, oh, go ahead.
Jack,
Tim.
I actually had a quick question. Sorry to interrupt you if you're closing
Yeah.
it out. You had mentioned when you do the drag and drop onto the schedule for assigning,
Mhm.
does that reflect in Maximo in a certain way, or is that strictly on the scheduler?
Nope. Well, so you the moment you hit save, it'll update your schedule start and schedule finish dates on your work order. So
When you're assigning it to the individual, does it update who that individual is, or do you still have to go into the work order and change it around?
nope, it'll update who that individual is. It'll say, hey, this person has an assignment for this particular task or work order. They're assigned to it, and that it belongs to them per se.
You know, if it's by owner or by
There's actually a separate table that's called assignments, and it
Okay.
places an assignment in there.
all right, very good, thank you.
We can, however, have that assignments piece show up on a start center, so that is an option. Any other questions? All right. Well, with that, I'll kind of begin to close this out for us. You know, this tool is something that I think that we could definitely use among many of our sites, and it's something that I think that is probably one of the strongest tools that Maximo came out with for Maximo Application Suite. So, you know, I highly suggest that if you guys have any questions, you know, maybe you want more training on this, because you'll probably need it if you're going to start using this tool. Just let us know, and at our team, we can help you out and get you started on using this tool. All right. With that, I'll kind of let you guys go. Keep in mind next month we're going to have an oil and gas presentation by Carlos. So keep in mind for that, and then also we will be sending copies of the slides and kind of this recording out after this meeting. So keep an eye for that. And if nobody has anything else, I will let everybody go.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.